Nusra terrorist gatherings are targeted and scores of them eliminated in Latakia and Derha countryside. The Iraqi army continues its advance in Salahuddin and dozens of ISIL terrorists are killed in Al-Qa'im. For the 77 days, Saudi airstrikes continue on Yemen as the Yemeni army missiles hit Saudi border areas. Good afternoon. President Bashar al-Assad received members of the Holy Synod Syriac Orthodox Church in the world headed by His Holiness Patriarch Ignatius Ephraim. President al-Assad said that Syria was and will remain a homeland for all Syrians of different affiliations, despite the fierce terror war that they are facing, expressing confidence that the Syrian will come through it by the steadfastness of its people and the sacrifices of its army. Patriarch Ignatius Ephraim II, Patriarch of Antioch, and all the East expressed support for the Syrian people in the face of its sufferings. In Syria, 3 missile shells were fired by terrorists at residential quarters, killing citizens Assad Jamal Saraya and wounding a 14-year-old girl. Material damage was inflicted on a number of houses, shops and private cars parked in the area. Our news correspondent in Syria has dismissed as completely untrue reports about the terrorists taking control of Al Tha'la airport. The Syrian Arab Army, the correspondent added, has thwarted a third attack on the airport's access. In Latakia countryside, Syrian Arab Army units have targeted Nusra gatherings and eliminated many of them and destroyed their weapons and ammunition warehouses in several areas. Among the terrorists killed was Bashir Daqqan, a leader of an armed terrorist group. In Derha suburb, a number of terrorists were killed in Kafr Nasij and Kafr Shemis, and others were targeted southeast of the News Media Main Building and Swaydan Street, downtown Derha. Several gunmen were also killed in Sasa, in Damascus countryside. At least 27 terrorists were killed, including some leaders, during Iraqi airstrikes against their positions in Al-Qa'im area. The Iraqi army continued to make progress in the governorate of Salahuddin, north of Baghdad. Iraqi sources reported that the army is prepared to launch a wide-scale attack in Salahuddin province in order to clear the whole area of ISIL terrorists. Meanwhile, new military enforcements have reached the district of Biji, north of Tikrit. Saudi airstrikes against Yemeni towns and cities continued, claiming dozens of lives and leaving heavy material damages to the country's infrastructure. The Yemeni army responded by shelling Ain al-Hada position inside the Saudi terrorists and launched rockets on military camps inside the Saudi cities of Jazan and Zahran. Meanwhile, clashes erupted between the Yemeni army and Saudi border guards following Saudi airstrikes against the border areas of Al-Marzouk, Al-Malahiz and the Red Mountain in Yemeni cities of Hajjah and Saada. One Palestinian was killed by Israeli fire during an arrest campaign inside the Jenin camp north of the West Bank. Meanwhile, Israeli occupation troops arrested 9 Palestinians, 5 of them in occupied Jerusalem, as Israeli bulldozers destroyed farmland in the city of Bethlehem. Russia and the Islamic World Conference opened in Moscow today with the participation of the Mufti of the Republic, Dr. Ahmed Badruddin Hassoun, and a number of muftis and religious figures from Islamic states, as well as experts at the world level. In his word addressed at the conference and delivered on his behalf of Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Moscow is ready to coordinate with Islamic states to discuss ways of combating terrorism and solving conflicts through peaceful means, adding that his country considers those states strategic partners in the culture's dialogue. Putin said that the Islamic world is having a hard time today due to divisions, terrorism, and differences, referring to threats made by certain countries. On his part, Lavrov expressed in his word concern over the escalation of tension in the world, particularly in the Middle East, where the terrorists have been active, taking control of wide areas of land. Lavrov pointed out that the crisis in Syria, Libya, Iraq and Yemen represent a big challenge for security and stability, and that the terrorists have intensified their activity encouraged by those very conflicts. The Ministry of Culture organized a festivity at Dar al-Assad honoring the winners of the state's Appreciative Award for the year 2015. The winners stressed that culture cannot be defeated despite occasional setbacks, as Syria will always remain a land of great thinkers and writers, pointing out that the awards they received represent a symbolic gesture that cultural life in Syria will continue despite all challenges. The Syrian short film A Seed by the young director Hanna Karim was nominated to the final stage of the original iPhone Festival in New York. The film speaks about the real meaning of war from the point of view of some young men and women interviewed to explain their interpretation of the war after 4 years of suffering. Karim says that the film introduces an optimistic view about the future, adding that it was the only Arab film to reach the finals, thus joining 15 other international films in the competition. He added that his next film would tackle the issue of Armenian massacres committed by the Ottoman Turks a century ago. Ladies and gentlemen, with this reach the end of our news. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Sirina, but after a short break.
Good afternoon. People's Assembly has approved a bill that includes commitment to Article A of Law Number 4 for the year 2014 concerning exempting the loans of the Agricultural Bank. This step comes as a result of the hard conditions that prevent farmers getting benefits from Law Number 11, in addition to the farmers' disability to handle additional financial burdens apart from the drought weather during the past agricultural season. The Ministry of Agriculture, in cooperation with the General Authority of Remote Sensing and the Ministry of State for Environmental Affairs, held a workshop about surveying the natural and agricultural resources in Syria using several techniques. The Minister of Agriculture, Ahmed Al-Qadiri, asserted that this project is in its second stage after implementing the first one in the eastern area. He added that during the second one, the project will be circulated on all governorates, and it aims at putting a specific methodology for surveying the natural and agricultural resources using remote sensing techniques. The project also includes preparing staff from the Ministry of Agriculture and the concerned parties in order to implement it. Assistant Director of Homs Refinery Company revealed that the refinery staffs have produced essential and strategic oil products through installing combination of derivatives that don't match with the Syrian standards, and they were able to achieve a mix of specifications similar to the crude oil ones. He also asserted that this work is a step to challenge the obstacles facing the workers due to the current crisis, noting that these products meet part of the country's demands. However, the oil ministry has started to provide part of the raw materials in Banyas refinery. The Central Bank of Syria has set the exchange rate of the US dollar against the Syrian pound at 276.34 for the banks and 273.37 for the exchange companies. The central bank also set the exchange rate of the US dollar against the Syrian pound for transfers at 275. On the other hand, the euro exchange rate against the Syrian pound was set at 312.16 for the banks and 312.25 for the exchange companies. Crude oil prices fell today as the World Bank cut its global economic growth forecast, ending a two-day rally triggered by a sharp U.S. inventory drawdown. European stocks advanced for a second day as Japanese stocks rose to snap a 4-day losing streak and bouncing from 3-week lows, taking heart from Wall Street's rally overnight. Gold held firm near its highest level in a week today after a 3-day rally sparked by a weaker dollar and safe haven bids from the Greek debt crisis. The yen edged back down today after previous rallying or remarks by the Bank of Japan's governor as the US dollar had tumbled 1.3%, its biggest one-day fall in 6 months. With this, we conclude our economic news for today. Thank you for watching and goodbye.